Hi there, that's right, guess who? It's Nick Dutch back on the camera again one more time. Hi there, how the heck is it going? This video is going out to the Woods of Jordan, or at least the guy who is behind the channel name The Woods of Jordan. And the video which you just put out recently, Jordan, is an expression, so it seems, of something which a lot of people go through, especially if they've been in a culture of perceiving religion to be much more important than it really is. Now, I know that in the United States of America, religion is aggressive, it's very in your face, and there's an awful lot of demands based upon you by your surrounding society, maybe by your family, maybe by your schooling, and of course by the media, to be more overtly and more directly religious and much more literalistic in your interpretation, and also in a very black, white, true or false, kind of way of looking at life. That's where a lot of problems happen, and you're going through a time of life which is actually very important, and very important in formulating your views and your ideas and the way in which you choose to live and the way in which you choose to perceive religion, society, people and everything else. It's a very common state of mind to go through. And I've been watching some of your progress, not every single video that you've been doing. As you moved away from creationism, you started to develop some doubts, you went through your strong atheist phase, and now you're kind of like in this between stage. What I personally feel that you're doing now is to fathom and work out where you actually stand. You spoke about the historicity of the Bible, and yeah, there's some historical facts in there. Joseph was definitely a historical character. Abraham and Isaac and Jacob were probably all historical characters. Okay, there were a few others that one could point to and say, yes, that was a historical character. Whether the story itself or how it's been written is in fact true, complete and accurate, that remains for further investigation and assessment, because we still basically don't know an awful lot. There are some stories such as the parting of the Red Sea, which could in fact have been a theological interpretation of a natural science phenomenon such as an earthquake or something similar, creating a peninsula of land, the waters receding, and the peninsula going away again once the Israelites had crossed through the Red Sea. Was it the Red Sea or the Dead Sea? I can't remember now. Anyway, but there's some things which are of natural origin, which could have been interpreted as being blessings from God at a certain time, or indeed could have been accredited back to God by the people at that time within that particular culture. Some aspects of the Old Testament, it's very much the equivalent of the Birth of a Nation movie. I don't know whether you've heard about that, which was rather unpleasant and rather nationalistic and rather racist as well. But it was the product of its time, and some parts of the Old Testament are written in very much kind of like a Birth of a Nation kind of a way. And so you get the feeling that this was like an origin story of a nation rather than necessarily the origin story of the history of the world or the origin story of anything else in particular, okay? It's predominantly the origin stories of the development of the society. Is the Old Testament and the New Testament true? I think the most important thing to say there is, who cares? Religion itself, if you move away from all of the arguments of this is historical, therefore the whole thing must be true, or there's some archaeological evidence to support this, therefore the whole thing must be true, and so on and so forth. If you were to move away from all of those arguments, what actually is a religion? In practice, what is it? It's a system of stories, ideas, concepts, symbols, and actions which you run alongside your life. Okay, some of the ideas can be beautiful, some of them you can disagree with. You yourself said you wanted to, you aspired to be Christ-like. Well, Jesus Christ was someone who challenged authority. So if you're challenging the authority of what the various pundits and priests and all the rest of that have been forcing into your head, then essentially you're being Christ-like. Alright, you're disagreeing. And you've got the right of freedom of speech and freedom of thought, and so you can disagree. which is basically Christ-like. That's essentially one important interpretation. Let's just say, you're going through an important and irregular stage. I actually remember one time after I'd gone through a pretty hectic and unpleasant time with a certain group of New Age pagans. And I was travelling to go and see a friend of mine. Got in the car, drove along, stopped at a service station, and I couldn't help myself. I just, took a pen out of my pocket and wrote on the wall, "Fuck religion, it's a load of bollocks," and then just walked out, because I just felt the need to express my resentment and my hatred against the way that I've been treated by people who are basically of an unpleasant and undesirable disposition. I remember that quite distinctly. And it was actually a fair few years later when I found myself going to the same service station, and I ended up using the same lavatory and going into the same cubicle, and there was my writing still up there to remind me of that one time when I was, very, very vehement and very angry against religion, and trying to work out what I thought through rejecting some of the aggressive dogma which have been put my way. That seems to be almost what you've been going through, that moment of catharsis, that moment of clearing the system out, and trying to bring yourself to the point of thinking, well, okay, well, forget all of that, but, what is really true? Now, you also said it yourself, you can't deny what science has said. Okay, well, neither can I. We can't deny certain things which are facts about the way the world is put together. Alright? The world is round, gravity, abiogenesis, evolution, the Big Bang, fine, it's a fact. But then you also talked about, like, his historicity of Jesus Christ, and so on and so forth. And yeah, there is evidence to support the historical character. But on the other hand, so fucking hell what? Seriously, so what? Why is it that you would want to be a member of any religion? Think about it. Why would you want to be a member of any particular religion? It involves going to places at certain times of the day, week, month, or year. It involves reading some things, taking ideas on board, performing some actions. Why would you want to do this? Apart from the fact it does you some good psychologically, to enable you to be much more well integrated into society. And I would agree with you that there is tons of hypocrisy out there of people who don't actually think like that. Okay? Religion is just stories which are mapped out over the year, over the seasons, over the phases of the moon, the days of the week, which is mapped out in books, and which people, to a certain extent, show honouring of, or reverence of, or reenacting of at various different times of the day, week, month, and year. But it has some kind of therapeutic effect on some people. I mean, there's an awful lot of bad people out there who just use it to fuck around, just to fuck up people's lives and fuck up people's minds and try and control people, because there's sick people in this world, because humans themselves need help. Full stop. Doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, there's always something about every single individual that is slightly psychologically and emotionally pathogenic. Alright, I personally regard that as true. I mean, there may be some evidence to the contrary, I don't know, but that's what my impression is of what humans are. So what is it that humans need? They need structure. They need something to give them a sense of extra discipline, and to take some time out of their day or out of their week to insert some good and healthy ideas into their mind, or something which can be interpreted as being good and healthy. And maybe that's a attitude to take towards religion. Alright, it doesn't matter whether the stories are true or not. Okay, that's a complete and utter irrelevance. You just live with the stories in parallel with your own life, and see whether you can get some kind of benefit, basically, out of it. Now, I do feel for you because of the confusion that you've gone through. Fortunately for myself, because I went through the pagan world, and I was encouraged to try and seek a relationship with a deity concept allegorically, that's what I learned how to do. Alright, I thought it doesn't matter whether this particular deity exists or whether it doesn't. I'm just going to read and expand my ideas with a passage of time as to what this deity concept means, what it means emotionally, what it means to do with myself, what else it could connect with symbolically in the universe, and not take it seriously, put a spirit of fun into the whole thing, you know, and just see what good that could do for me, and then to think the same about the stories and the seasonality of the particular New Age religion, and then to think about maybe some of the text that was written about it in the same kind of way, not taking it too seriously. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not, just trying to use it for me to contemplate, disagreeing with whatever I want to, okay? Still seeing myself as a free individual. And now, then please don't unsubscribe just because I've said this, whoever's watching, okay? I've decided to do that with Christianity. And I've decided to do something I've never done before, and that is to live as a Christian. But I'm still not going to give up being me, because I have the right of freedom of thought, okay? And I have the right of freedom of action, and I have the right to doubt anything that's told me. I have started going to church, and there is one person who occasionally does the sermon, and he is a creationist, but he's not forceful, and I think that maybe because I've looked at him in a bit of a funny way once, he wouldn't want to be forceful with me, which makes me feel quite glad, because I'm not a creationist. I am essentially a deist, but I'm a deist who's chosen his own route, his own path and way of doing things, based upon a bit of everything. I'm still doing things such as circle casting, meditation, as I say, still working in my rather odd and quixotic industry. None of these things are going to change, just I'm incorporating Christianity into my life. The thing that stops me from being concerned or confused is because I've got enough doubt, I've got enough self-criticism, and I've got enough desire to be free-thinking to not see the Bible as the Word of God, and to not listen to any particular Christian who is trying to force their ideas into me, or any particular individual, full stop. Whether they're scientists, whether they're theists, whether they're atheists, whether they're deists, whether they're an anything-ist. Because, you know, I stand in the middle of my life, you know. I'm the one who does my own thinking for myself. So to you, Jordan, my recommendation, and it's just my recommendation and just my own suggestion, and I hope this is not being taken as being something forceful, okay? Because if it is, then obviously, you know, turn the video off now, just don't look at me, don't listen to me, and all the rest of that. Would be just to see the Bible as a book of stories, which you can choose to take whatever you want from and reject whatever you want from. To see it as contemplation, something to challenge yourself or something you can challenge. Just to see whether, if you wish to, you could just live with the stories in parallel with your life. Not take it too seriously, and not care whether Jesus Christ existed or not, and not even care whether God exists or not. And just to use it as a way of getting yourself straight. Because when I'm listening to you, Jordan, I'm just hearing a person who's confused, fearful, unhappy, who to a certain extent misses living in a time of life when things were certain, and also is still looking for something else, something that can be fulfilling, or which someone else told you at one point would be fulfilling. I don't think that religion is necessarily quite that fulfilling anyway. There are those who say that it is, but on the other hand, they're normally rather mad, rather, you know, obsessive, insane, over the top, or aggressive. And that isn't something that you need to be associated with. You know, you need to take a more relaxed attitude to this whole stuff. And the only way you can do that is to learn what it means to be yourself. To learn what it means to be able to say, I am free to disagree. I am free to turn around to someone and say, look, I don't like what you say, I disagree. That's it. And then to go away and maybe think about what they said and work out whether they had some truth to what they said or whether they didn't. And carry on researching and experimenting and exploring. And you know, you don't have to have this kind of like religion versus science kind of mentality, because religion only deals with one thing, and that's your own mind. That's it. It's your religion, not theirs. Okay, you can be a Jew, a Muslim, a Christian, a pagan, whatever. But it's your religion. It's not the Jewish, Muslim, Christian, pagan religion, is it? It's yours. Because every single individual will have their own interpretation of what's going on. Now, why would I bother after all of my time and all my years of doing this, that, and the other, suddenly end up going to church? It's cheap therapy. Every single day. Every single fucking day. I hear other people's pain. Coming down the phone, coming down the internet. And it's my job. And I do enjoy it, but I've got this like erratic relationship with my work. Alright? This two states of mind at once. I love it. I truly love it. And I love being there for people. I love being able to help people. When I can help someone, it gives me the biggest buzz on the face of the planet. But it's also very draining and very tiring. And so what I've done is I've given myself structure and community and some stories. That's all. And I did a really cool Ouija board seance last night. I must remember to get that edited and uploaded for you guys. It's going to be so cool. But anyway, take a different attitude and relax. Alright? Remember, I used to know an Islamic guy who was very strongly Islamic, very religious indeed, but he still ate pork, and he still drank beer with us in the student union bar. And I said to him, you know, why are you eating pork sausages and drinking beer with us if you're an Islamic person? And he says, listen mate, my religion is between me and God, and the rest of the world can fuck off. And he was a very Islamic individual. He left a really big impression upon me. And I think he allowed me to see that politics and religion should be two different things, okay? And religion is not about someone else telling you what to think. It's about you thinking for yourself and having something to ground you and make you feel better. Whether God does exist or God does not exist, you know, it doesn't matter at all. Now, you know, I've never actually lived completely as a Christian before. I haven't, you know, followed the structure of life and going to church on a very regular basis, reading the Bible, singing the hymns and all that kind of jazz. And with the first few services, you know, I felt a bit silly. But it takes away the stresses that I go through quite nicely. And so that's fine. And when I do like an hour and a half long service, I see it and there's nothing else more or less than just sitting down and listening to a meditation CD, because that's what it is. You get music, you get ideas which are being whispered to you from the pulpit, and you can accept them or you can reject them, you know what I mean? But some of them are just beautiful. And the fact that they're just beautiful is good enough. Full stop. It's just good enough. So, Jordan, will you take on board what I've said? Okay? And see all this stuff from your own point of view? Relax. Take it easy. and not worry whether it's true or not, because you know it's stories and ideas, and it's what those ideas can do for you which is important, rather than whether you accept or believe what you're told to accept and believe. Because if someone tries to take away your freedom of thought, in my opinion, they are scum. Seriously evil fucking scum. Alright? So, be yourself. Learn what it means to be yourself. It's not a question of trying to work out what emotions you've got inside you. It's a question of learning the responsibility of looking after the ideas that come into your mind and how to use your thoughts for yourself and your own benefit. That's all I'm going to say for you right now. And I've gone far too long, and I'm sure I've bored a fair few people out there. But never mind. Good fortune. God bless. Play it cool. Look after yourself.